For my Women in Gender Studies final project, I have chosen to cover the topic of anti-LGBTQ+ and sexist themes in the Disney world. Disney uses plot and characterization to enforce heteronormative, sexist, and homophobic ideas in children starting at a young age. This is done through portraying exclusively heterosexual relationships, providing strict gender rules for all characters, and queer-coding characters seen as weird or villainous. My first source is the 1950 film Cinderella. One of the first of many Disney films about a princess, this was released during the classic era of Disney. Cinderella follows a girl named Ella who is forced to live with her stepmother and stepsisters after her father dies. Her new family does not treat her well, reducing her to a mere maid responsible for cooking and cleaning, a gender role in media often given to a female character. When Cinderella has an opportunity to go to a ball, there is a scene where her animals help her build a dress to wear, and when the male animals offer to help, they are told to leave the sewing to the girls. This scene, along with the fact that she spends a large portion of the movie cooking, cleaning, and other stereotypically female jobs, teaches young girls what their role is and how they should act according to their gender. Also, her only friends are the animals she talks to, and her life is very bleak. She spends her life miserable until she is presented with a chance to meet a man. The prince falls in love with her, but later cannot even see her worth when she is in common clothing and covered in cinder. When he does finally recognize her, he immediately marries her, and she is finally saved from her terrible situation, all due to the actions of a man. This is the common damsel in distress trope that teaches girls that the only way they can be happy is if a man saves them. Next is the television show Lilo and Stitch the series. Lilo and Stitch follows a young girl in Hawaii and her pet alien Stitch while she lives with her older sister and two aliens. While the show was very progressive with their portrayal of female characters, as they have an older sister as the main caretaker and head of the house, the same cannot be said for the queer-coded alien Pleakley. Pleakley is often seen wearing dresses, makeup, and wigs, and overall appearing in a more feminine manner than other male characters on the show. He is shown to enjoy skincare and cooking and often flirts with men on the show. Due to this, he is teased and bullied throughout the series for how he chooses to dress and present himself, and this treatment, along with the fact that he is actually an alien, teaches kids that there is a correct way to dress depending on your gender, and that it is strange to not conform to these standards. Next is my source of music, which is the song Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Gaston is a hyper-masculine character in the movie who is revered by the townsfolk and adored by all the women except Belle, the main character. This is very frustrating to him, and he often belittles her for seeking education, saying that all her reading will start to give her thoughts. The song is performed when he has been rejected by Belle again, and the purpose of it is to reaffirm his masculinity and promote a toxic stereotype of how a man should look and act. Gaston is described as burly and brawny and is said to have an incredibly thick neck, a swelled cleft in his chin, and hair covering his entire body, commonly masculine physical traits. The song makes it seem that to be a real man you must possess these physical characteristics, which can teach children that transgender and effeminate men are less of a man because they don't necessarily value or possess these traits. The song is also performed by one of Gaston's sidekicks, who is a queer-coded character that doesn't possess any of these traits. The fact that a character who can be seen as queer idolizes and envies the true man that is Gaston can damage children's views of queer and more feminine men. Following this is the 1989 theatrical trailer of The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid was definitely not progressive in its portrayal of female or queer-coded characters. In fact, the main antagonist, a sea witch named Ursula, is directly based on a drag queen named Queen Divine. Ursula is seen trying to steal from Ariel, which would interfere with what would obviously be a perfect heterosexual relationship. The Little Mermaid is also depicted in my art source, which is an illustration made from cutting paper showing Ariel surrendering her voice in order to obtain legs. This is probably the most obvious example of enforcing gender roles and effectively teaches children that women should be seen and not heard. Ariel sacrifices everything, her family, her voice, and her ability to express herself just to meet a man she saw on a boat. The main obstacle in the movie is getting the prince to still fall in love with her, even without her ability to speak. Ursula assures her that even without her voice, she still has her face and expressions and body language, and that should be more than enough to make a man fall in love. Ariel is not even considered a person at this point, but more just a pretty trophy to look at. Fortunately, Ariel and the prince fall in love in another magical show of heteronormativity, and she miraculously recovers her voice, showing that true, or straight love can even overcome the evils a queer character tries to perform. My next piece of evidence is an essay written about the study of homosexual characters in Disney films, and I also want to include an article that discusses the many queer-coded Disney characters. There are no outright stated queer characters in Disney films and television, but many viewers have come to identify with and claim characters as queer-coded. This is usually based on their interest, way of dress or speech, or interpretations of the situations they face. Unfortunately, more than half of the queer-coded characters in Disney are seen as outcasts at best and villains at worst. For example, Scar from The Lion King is often viewed as a flamboyant gay black man, while Jafar from Aladdin fills the stereotype of an elegant and effeminate queer man. Both of these characters are main antagonists in the film, and children are taught to view people who fit these criteria as evil or immoral. Even queer-coded characters who aren't inherently evil still aren't accepted into society. Elsa from Frozen is commonly seen as a queer character, and many fans interpret her song Let It Go, which was about her powers using ice, as a coming-out anthem. While Elsa is the main character, she spends almost all of the movie seen as a villain by the other characters and is forced to leave her home for simply being different. Another example is Merida from the movie Brave. Merida is one of the first Disney princesses to completely reject the idea of marriage, even deciding she will compete against the men for her own hand at marriage. While it is great for young girls to see that they don't need a man to define them or to be happy, Merida is also depicted as extremely strange for this, and many of the other characters who don't understand her belittle her decision. While these two characters are not evil or villainous, they are shown as strange and off-putting due to their queer identities, further teaching children that being different is weird and should be judged. My last two sources are articles. One called A Tale as Old as Time, an analysis of negative stereotypes in Disney princess movies, and the other called Gender Norms and Heteronormativity in Pixar and Disney Films. The first article studies the top 10 grossing Disney princess movies and the stereotypes present, including race, gender, and social class. The study observes gendered language, gender-specific activities, and how the different genders participate in relationships. These perceived gender norms teach children at a young age what their role is in society based on gender. This article supports my topic by analyzing the roles different genders play and the way different genders act in Disney movies. It states how, in the movies, female characters spend a majority of their time cleaning, cooking, and singing, while male characters primarily hunt, work, and play sports. These are common stereotypes associated with gender and put women in a caregiver role, while men are placed in a strong, powerful, controlling position. This article also shows how Disney movies teach young women that they will have to give up a part of themselves to receive a man's love, including their freedom, voice, family, and dreams. The second article, while shorter, still brings up a valid point and example of Disney and Pixar enforcing gender norms in their films. The example used is the movie The Incredibles, where a family of superheroes works together to fight evil. The family is headed by yet another straight couple and perpetrates gender norms to the max. The husband of the family is physically enormous, and his power is his super strength. Due to his sheer size and strength, he is unable to perform the mundane domestic tasks often left to women. The wife's main ability is her elasticity, showing that she can change herself to fit any situation. Because of her husband's inability to do specific tasks, she is tasked with household chores and children care, and her ability emphasizes that a woman is expected to stretch and change herself to fit the others around her. The movie shows that even though she is a superhero, she is still responsible for stereotypically female tasks such as cooking and child-rearing. These two articles perfectly explain the gender roles commonly shown in Disney films. Too often these roles put men in a power position and control, and women in a subservient caregiver role, which can teach children toxic ideas about what their role is in the world purely based on the gender they identify as. Together, these sources support my thesis that Disney's plot and characterization enforces anti-LGBTQ+ and sexist ideas in children. By only using heterosexual relationships, queer-coding characters as villains or outcasts, and assigning strict gender roles to characters teaches children at a young age what their role is in society based on gender, sexual identity, and sexual orientation.